Hello, my name is Dr. Kaylee Simmerman. I'm the owner of the Hope Doctors, and this is Bryce. He is my 1 year old son. He will be joining us today for most of our conversation. If I seem distracted, he is on the move, so he gets into absolutely everything. So ignore me as I jump to different things. Most of you, I'm sure, understand. But wanted to talk to you today about some of the unsexy stuff in business. A lot of people only talk about the positives, they only talk about the growth, which is what we talked about yesterday. But I want to talk about the things that have been semi quote like struggle, right? Like I want to talk about the things that I feel like weren't the best decision for me that I made still, poor investments, things that I learned from. Got my coffee with me today. So, yeah, I'm excited to kind of share with you the lessons that I've learned in the hard ways and also in the ways that I think have turned into a beautiful thing. So, as you know, in 2018, when I started the business, I was a solopreneur, which just means that I was doing business by myself and nobody was around to help me. And I purchased coaching in 2018, business coaching, because I had no idea what I was doing. And I needed somebody to guide me in this process of like, how do you start a business? How do you sustain a business? How do you get clients? How do you do all of these things that you have to do in order to make it sustainable? And so I purchased in 2018 about $2,000 worth of coaching and then a little bit more there at the end of the year. And in 2019, I ended up investing about $30,000 in coaching. And the reason I invested so much in coaching was because, again, I didn't know the things that I didn't know. What I wish I would have known then was how to leverage debt and like how to know that I shouldn't have purchased that without first having the revenue to prove, if that makes sense. So, in other words, I ended up using a credit card to pay for the $30,000. And it took me up until last year to pay that off. So, it took me 2 years to pay that off. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. I learned a ton from that program, but I wish that the program and the coaching and things like that, I wish that it actually gave me the information on how to scale, how to leverage my business compared to just the startups and motivation. And so being more mindful about where I was putting my money was a really big lesson there in the beginning. I also realized that in 2018 and 2019 that I was just really lonely because I wasn't in a clinic with anyone. I was by myself. I had to ask business questions to myself. Yes, I was in that mastermind, but nobody was within my business in the community. I didn't have anyone I had to pay for mentorship if I had questions about a client. I didn't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, creative ventures off of. I wasn't able to meet up with doctors with anyone else that's within the company. I couldn't share my biggest like fears, my biggest anxieties, my thoughts and things like that. And so it was actually pretty lonely for those first 2 years. I also fell under the trap that you had to hustle. So in 2018, 2019, while yesterday I shared that we ended up becoming a multiple six-figure practice within that time frame, I was exhausted and I was going down that realm of burnout and I was just hustling. So I was working 24/7. If I wasn't seeing clients, I was at home figuring out how to get more clients. If I was seeing clients and getting more clients, then I was working on how can I keep that lead generation up. I was running a podcast. I was doing a blog. I was doing guest blogs. I was doing guest interviews. I was doing all of these things. I was doing Facebook Lives every other day. I was on social media. And so I was running myself dry. And that was a big lesson for me going into this later part of this business that I have, because I just realized that I can't do it all. Which leads me into 2020, which is when we started to consider, and I say consider because in 2020 we only had someone as an independent contractor to help me cover the leads that I couldn't cover. And so 2020, that was my big lesson, was I needed to delegate. I needed to build a team. I needed to have people work with me full time. I needed to consider full-time employment for my company so that I could fully grow. And of course, the pandemic hits. So 2020, the pandemic hits. I was very grateful to receive $4,000 from our city as a grant. So I was able to have that grant come in, which was helpful because I was still able to, because even though it's not my responsibility as an independent contractor to support her, we had no salary, etc. I was still offering admin work or delegating tasks to her to help give her an income because the pandemic as well was really affecting her. And so we had to switch everything to virtual, which pelvic health care wise is a weird thing. You had to figure out how to do pelvic assessments or education online without seeing somebody's pelvic floor, without being able to do a visual assessment, manual assessment, and things like that. And so that was its own learning experience. Also in 2020, again, like we just kind of went back down into that hole of noticing that we're growing, things are great, things are getting bigger, but we didn't have the capital. So we took out a line of credit. We did not use the line of credit in 2020. We actually used that in 2021. But it was something that we had to do to make sure that we had that stability and that peace of mind in the back of my mind to say, like, if something happens, can I pay myself? Can we pay our bills? 2020, we weren't able to pay me like an income. So we were only taking like $20,000 profit at the end of the year because we had to keep the operating costs up. And a lot of other businesses were increasing prices or requiring other things because of the pandemic. And so they were trying to make their operating costs work. And so it was a back and forth money situation in 2020. In 2021 and 2022, I would say we started to get hit with a lot of like, you started to notice prices increase, right? And inflation obviously has been hard 2022, 2023, which has been a big hit. We haven't raised our prices. And so that has increased expenses, but decreased our revenue. And so that's been an interesting challenge within the business. But in 2021, 2022 year, we hired, we fired, I had my first person who I truly invested so much time and energy and my emotional capacity into, built up the caseload, and they left. And that was really hard for me, not for the purpose of like, first of all, it's a compliment that they worked with me for a year and felt confident that they could go out on their own. That was a beautiful thing. But it was so hurtful because I let people into the business in the realm of vulnerability, and I had no idea that there was a plan of leaving until it was just sprung upon me. And so it's really difficult when you have your heart set, and I invested in a lot of money on employment attorneys to write out the contract for this person, and I invested into their bonus, their sign-on bonus, I invested into their building the caseload and like all of these other things. And it was just, it was hard. So they left, and totally fine, whatever. And I was able to kind of process that. I was pregnant at that time because I became pregnant in 2021. And it was the beginning of the year in 2022 when it seems like everything just decided to happen. So this person decided to leave. We had to rebrand quickly because of a mistake that I had made when I was going through finding a business name. It happened to be trademarked. So we had to rebrand within 30 days. So that included more legal fees. We had to take out some of the line of credit. So we had to go into debt a little bit to get ourselves out of that hole. And I ended up firing the current admin that we had because of the loss of, or the lack of, desire to do the job. And like, so that was hard because it was a friend and I love my people so deeply. And biggest lesson that I learned there was that, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's my business. And at the end of the day, nobody else's responsibility is to love it like I do. And so I have to take that expectation off of other people, because my expectation is that everyone comes in and absolutely loves it the way that I do. And that's not fair to them. So I learned that, and we were able to go through all of those things and the money struggles, right? Like, people don't like to talk about those, but scaling a business and growing a business is not easy. You know, we have now employment taxes. We now have our attorney's team that's behind us, which is great because it protects all of us. We have the taxes that we pay as an employer. We have a new payroll system. We switched into a CRM to help us keep up with the thousands of leads that we have within the company. And we have a new electronic medical EMR system as well, which is a lot more costly than the old one that we had. And so we had a ton more expenses between last year and this year. And so our revenue is less because our expenses are more, and we're choosing not to raise our prices. And so it's been a summer dullness as well. And so this year it's been a lot slower than typical in this time frame. And it's just been a hard lesson for me to sit back and, like, being a new mom and not seeing new clients and knowing that my tendency is to go in and see all the clients, because one, if I see the clients, we don't pay anyone to see the clients, we pay the company, so we make more. Two, if I see the clients, then again, I know that I've done it before. I've built a very busy caseload before, and so I know that I can hit the ground running. And it's been really hard to not fall into that like I typically would, and to trust my team and to trust myself to build this team and to build them up and to help them get the caseloads of their dreams and to support their families. And so the lessons are not the easiest, right? Like, I've been really uncomfortable this year as a new mom, recognizing that also I just don't have time. We chose not to have childcare, and it's just been an interesting year because I can only be split so many ways. And so I've had to delegate a ton to our admin. I've had to ask my director to do a lot more. I've had to ask the girls to do a lot more, the clinicians. I've had to let go of my desire to become certain, like, influencers in areas, right? So, like, I can't spend as much time on things that I used to. And now I'm really learning that the priorities are showing themselves. And so it's all a really beautiful thing. It's a beautiful process. But the money struggles, it's a money mindset thing for me. At the end of the day, I always know that the work that I'm doing and the calling that I have is worth, like, very high compensation. And I know that the reward is coming for myself and for everyone else. And I think there is this false belief that business owners just sit back and buy a beach house and we just roll in cash. And I mean, true story, yes, our business has profited six figures for the past 4 years. And true story, I haven't taken more than 45,000 home. So my income is less than 45,000, like, for the whole year, the salary. Occasionally I can give myself a bonus, but usually I'm investing that into my team, into sending them to CEUs, into giving them a day to hang out or to, like, have a photo shoot or something like that. Because it's just, to me, it's more important to build the team, to have the team that believes in me and to believe in the mission, and versus just, like, rolling in the dough, right? Like, if I wanted to just roll in cash, I would never have hired anyone, because it's much easier, one, less stressful, but it's also a lot less expensive to have no team and just be by yourself, if I'm being completely honest, because you only have yourself to think about. Whereas now I'm taking on the responsibility of 5 other people. And I know that's only going to continue to grow. So I've had to go through a lot of, like, really uncomfortable learning processes. And I've really had to get uncomfortable within my biases, the way that I think, the way I feel about myself, what I think about them, what I think about how an employee mindset should be, how I want to run a team. My marriage has changed because my husband now also, since 2021, has come in to become my CFO. So we're co-owners. And it's just been an interesting journey. But again, I hope that this gives you a little bit of peace of mind. If you're listening and you're a business owner, it's okay to have struggles. There are so many beautiful journeys that come within business. And I know that there's more and more coming for us. And right now we just happen to be in one of those lulls. And that's okay. Ebbs and flows, right? But I wanted to share those because, again, I don't think that people talk about the hard parts enough. And I just love all the support that we get. So thank you for listening. Thank you for following on Instagram. Thank you for purchasing sessions, purchasing merchandise, whatever it is that you do to support us. Thank you. Because you are keeping food on the table for 5 families, 6 families, technically, if you want to include the people that I hire for maternity leave. You are allowing Bryce to have his mother present. You are allowing me to build a team with the mission that I know is so powerful. So thank you for listening. I will be back tomorrow to talk more about the things that I have to be grateful for, or the people that I have to be grateful for, and kind of some shout outs on how we've made it to where we are. But I look forward to seeing you then. Don't forget to subscribe.